Yo, 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 we are back with another episode of the Unsilent Church
Slow version.
podcast.
You killed that.
Of John's opening.
Nailed it.
That's the laid back version of
It is.
of
It
John's.
was.
Yeah, it's my impersonation of the of our missing co-host, John Talley the Third. Bro, we miss you.
Yeah.
You know, these conversations are different when you're not here, but you know, this is our way of in the spirit of John, we are back. Like we never left with another episode of the Unsilent Church podcast. Ramon.
The Preaching Collective.
Oh, this is the Preaching Collective. All right,
So
this
we
is the
shifted.
Preaching. Oh, we're gonna end it like this is the Preaching Collective. We out,
That's right.
but we here with another episode of the Preaching Collective. Crystal, we out here.
Hello.
Myself and Pastor V.
Yo.
Yeah. Happy to be back.
Yeah. So this Preaching Collective, we are talking about Black women you should know. We have talked about a few. This week, we are talking about, V, you tell us.
Maria Stewart. Right? Let me make sure I was pronouncing her first name wrong for a little while here. So thanks to Crystal for correcting us.
From what I hear, yes.
Well, if you were to read
I
on
think it was
paper, on paper, it looks like Maria.
Yeah.
It does read like Maria, but I mean, it was Spencer Crew who they were doing a reading and they kept pronouncing her name, Mariah. Now, Spencer Crew is important because he's the director of the Smithsonian.
So he must
you
know
would think-
something.
yeah. I mean, he's a historian, clearly. So, I mean,
Let's go with him.
Let's trust him.
We'll trust him today.
So I'm excited to talk about her because, in this series, a lot of the names, I think almost all the names are already pretty well known, but she's someone who hasn't been as well known. But when I sort of discovered her, I thought like, this is someone, and more people are discovering her and her writings in recent years, which I think is a good thing. And so Maria Stewart, born in 1803, died in 1879, was an early African-American abolitionist, women's rights advocate, and public speaker. Probably the big thing that makes her stand out is from 1831 to 1833, she started writing essays in The Liberator, which was the dominant sort of paper about abolitionism during that time period. And also, she was the first American woman to speak publicly to mixed audiences of men and women.
You should say that again.
Yeah, American, not Black,
That's right,
American.
So not the first Black woman, but
She is
first
the
woman.
first woman, period, to
Yes.
speak to a mixed audience about these things. So like
Exactly.
an authoritative figure and all the conversations we're having about authority and power, Mariah was the first to stand up and say these things.
One of the first Black American women to lecture publicly on particular issues. And so, obviously, an amazing speaker, communicator, but a lot of her speeches were about, a lot of this came out of her faith, challenging racism. But it was interesting, and I want to we'll get more into this. She was known for challenging racism in the North, which people did not do back then. A lot of times, the focus was on the South, enslaving the South, and a lot of the narratives out there, popular literature, you run from the South to escape to the North, right?
Yeah.
And she's the one's like, no, the North ain't great either, right?
Yeah.
And so challenging racism in the North, Black women's economic independence, just in general, sort of Black uplift, and encouraging Black people to be educated and stand up for themselves, and to not let sort of their circumstances hold them down. Hold them down. Just in general, the worth, the God-given worth of Black Americans. As you might expect, she faced a lot of criticism and hostility for her speeches and her writings, so she stepped back from speaking, but continued to serve. So was a teacher, domestic worker, matron at Freed People's Schools and a hospital in Washington, D.C. So that's a bit of her story. I know you guys, all of us, have sort of done some light research on her. I pulled some quotes from some of her writings. What are you guys' thoughts? What sticks out to you as you kind of were looking into her life and reading about her?
I think there's a couple of things that that was surprising to me. First, I mean, and I don't know if you mentioned it, she was a free woman. Like, she was born free. So it wasn't,
That's
and this is the
interesting,
early 1800s, free woman. She was a orphan by the age of 5, and then had to do the domestic servitude, as you mentioned before. But I think what's particularly impressive about that is you have someone who was born free and still chose to get in the fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could have easily just like sat in your privilege. You could have sat and, just stayed on the sidelines, not get involved. But I think that is a testament to her convictions. A lot of her writings, like you mentioned, I was reading it, and it's like steeped in scripture. It's steeped in the word of God. And clearly she couldn't just sit by and not do anything because her faith clearly like compelled her to do that. So I think that was really impressive for her to go to great lengths to write and to encourage Black people and Christians. I think she also wrote to Christians, and you mentioned that before, first American to speak in front of a mixed crowd. And it was also mixed ethnicity. It wasn't just Black people, it was white people in the room as well. So she was just an overall impressive. And of course, like I said, her words are just amazing.
How was she born free?
Well, there were free people in the North.
Yeah.
At a certain point, the North wasn't practicing slavery like the South was, right? And so at a certain point,
there was slavery there. It just wasn't as intense. Like, there were like levels to it, and the South was like the
you're
worst.
Right. There's levels to it. But I think, generally speaking, there were free states in the North. Mm-hmm. And I think you can sort of imagine generationally, if once some of the northern states weren't actively practicing slavery, you had free people, and then they have kids, and so you sort of have that type of the generational people who are free. Who, you're right. I mean, I love that you pointed that out. And I think that's something that speaks to something about her that's worth highlighting, which is we're all, the reality is this idea of privilege, advantage, we want to call it advantages, et cetera. Mm-hmm. We all have it to various degrees. Yeah. It's certainly tied to ethnicity, right? There's certain privileges, advantages tied to who you are culturally and racially, et cetera. That's been true historically speaking. Yeah. Back to the first century, like it was better to be a Roman citizen, right? Culturally speaking, as opposed to non-citizen. There's advantages related to education, advantages related to gender, all sorts of different things. And so she had in many respects, she was an ideal. I mean, I put ideal in quotes. This is not a time period where people had, racism is everywhere, right?
Yeah. Sure.
But that being said, it can be very easy for her, born a freed woman in the North, to kind of just, I'm going to stay in my lane and do my thing. Yeah. But for her to sort of have that sense of like, the advantages and privileges I have are to be used to address the injustices around me. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. It really stands out. And I say, be willing to speak, particularly in a time period where, I mean, she's a woman and she's Black, and be willing to speak out publicly. Yeah. And it was a short period of time, and I think the hostility got too much. Yeah. But that she did do that, I think really stands out.
Yeah. Even after, like, there's a moment here, she got married. She married a veteran. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is almost like a recurring thing. Like, people know about the Tulsa situation. People know about the Tulsa situation. But it seemed like every opportunity, in a lot of opportunities where, Blacks born into these situations come into a form of wealth. Yeah. She marries this guy who was a veteran of the war, and became this wealthy shipping agent, makes his money. Mm-hmm. They are in this middle class. Y'all pray for Ramon. Ramon over here dying. I understand, kids start getting sick and then everybody's getting sick. You're just like, I don't know what to do.
I mean,
so hey, y'all pray for Ramon.
Yeah, I was good for about a week and a half.
And then it starts coming.
But like enough times of her like hacking,
coughing right in your face. I understand.
I'm like, Rosa, like, no, don't, please no. And I thought, and I don't think I've gotten as bad as her, but it's my youngest daughter, Rosa. Coming. Yeah. It's so I'm
hey, it's real out here. That's how you know, like, we're real people. We still get sick out here. Okay. But so they're like, comfortable, middle class. He dies pretty suddenly. Yep. And she has this inheritance. Yeah, they're only married 3 years, 1829. So this is before she starts to be, her sort of public appearances. And I don't know if this is like a sort of precursor to that. Like, if this is the impetus to that, when she starts to realize, like, oh, things in the North aren't as good as people seem, because people who were supposed to be friends, like these lawyers, essentially used the legal system at the time to essentially take all that money from
inheritance.
her.
That's wild.
So the idea of, there's a quote here of like her considering that black wealth is an illusion, but really then from that point, then you go from what it's 31 to 33, is it? The years that she goes public, to then start to like critique and say like, hey, this isn't right. But for her to still not find herself sort of like down and out, but still having the energy even after that kind of betrayal to then go and say, no, we need to change this. Now she was, pretty upset. So like,
clearly,
the leaning is like, yo, y'all need wrath. It's like, repent or wrath.
Some of our things are just,
But I think that's fair, coming from that sort of context, and dealing with that kind of betrayal. It's like, hey, y'all need to hear something harder. One, because what y'all are doing is so heinous. But two, it is that serious in the sense that you can't find yourself preaching as you do, saying the things as you do, trying to be as buttoned up as you are.
Absolutely.
When you're doing these kinds of things, the kind of brutality, the kind of betrayal, but then try to, button yourself up on Sundays and then say what you think is the right thing to say.
Which was, she spoke a lot about that. Like, how can you see these things and not act? And so it was almost like, faith without works is like dead. Like, you have to do something. So it was almost like, I need to get involved. It was like that compelling to do so. I think another thing which you kind of mentioned when we were talking about Harriet Tubman is acknowledging the people who were around her who gave her that platform, which if you want to talk about David Walker, who was the first guy to give her the opportunity. I think she wrote 4 articles for him. And for a black, he was also a free black man, born free. And he gave her that opportunity. And I think it's not just her compelling, but it's also people opening that door and giving space for women's voices to be heard. And it has to be the two.
I'm going to quote directly from some of her I think this is from her speeches, because I think one of the things I want to do so this is, as you guys know, this is a sermon series we'll be doing in February, is almost just really take seriously her ideas, her reasoning, because I think there's some really things she brings together and things she addresses that are really helpful to think through. And so I'm very interested in just sort of how she thought through addressing racism in the North. And it's sort of, she's critical of racism in the North, but also she spoke, at least from these 2 sort of longer quotes I'm going to look at here, she also was very good about sort of also addressing sort of black people who are listening in. It wasn't just
Christian.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what's happening. It's wrong, but here's what we need to do. Here's how I want you guys to think of yourselves. So this was from a lecture delivered in Franklin Hall. She said, many think, so she's talking about racism in the North, many think because your skins are tinged with a sable hue that you're an inferior race of beings, but God does not consider you as such. He hath formed you and fashioned you in his own glorious image. He looks upon all his creatures with an equal eye. Still look around you in this boasted land of freedom. See the sons of Africa beneath the oppressive weights of ages of bondage. Prejudice is as tenacious as the grave. It clings to the mind as with iron fetters. Yet we're told to be submissive, to be satisfied. But I ask in the name of God, how long shall these things be? So what you see there obviously is a strong idea of the doctrine of being made in the image of God. But also that sort of, she couches that in the sense of reminding, hey, America is supposed to be the land of the free. And yet look how we're treated, right? Even in sort of the free North, here's how we're viewed. And so there's sort of that it's interesting to me that the themes that she brings in together there. We just quickly mentioned this other one. This is from an address delivered at the African Masonic Hall in 1833. So again, she's talking about black people, free black people in the North. And she says, look, it's of no use for us to suppose that we have no talents, for we have. I fear that many of our brethren have fallen into that desponding state of mind which leads to nothing but indolence and poverty. But how long shall the daughters of Africa be compelled to bury their minds and talents beneath a load of iron pots and kettles? How long shall our brethren be compelled to drudge from morning until night for barely enough to sustain nature? Never, no, never will the chains of ignorance and sin be broken until we become united as one and cultivate among ourselves the pure principles of piety, morality, and virtue. And so what she's talking about there is the fact that most sure, you could be free in the North, but mostly you're doing domestic work.
Yeah.
And she's actually sort of saying, hey, what? So she's critical of like how the North is acting and saying you guys need to change and treat us differently. But she's also saying, I think I'm reading this as her saying, Black people, don't be held back by that,
Yeah.
right?
It's both.
So don't think to yourself that, well, I can't sort of see myself in a certain way because this is the way the conditions are. It's like, don't let yourself just think you're a domestic worker.
Yeah.
Push for more.
I think the extended part of that, she says, we have never had an opportunity to display our talents.
Yeah.
So she's basically, we haven't even been given the opportunity to show you what we can do. So don't just settle for these things that we've been subjected to do or just expected to do. But yeah, I think that's, I think that's just a beautiful side of what she was trying to do to encourage, people to see your worth clearly. Like you can do much more. Don't just.
Yeah. I think she's doing both, right? I mean, it's sort of like there is, I think you see, well, you look back, there's been like the Bill Cosby's out there, like, just pull yourself up.
Yep.
It's our own fault type of, arguments.
Yep.
That's sort of like the super conservative Black argument of, we're being held back. We're not being,
I would call them the sleepy conservative. I don't know if they're super. I'm not
talking about like Bill Cosby's,
sleepy.
I know.
Yes.
Those Thomas Sowell, those kind of people.
The sunken.
But yeah, there's sort of that like it's just just pull yourself up, work hard, etc.
Yeah. And
then there's others on the other who be like, well, we can't do anything. We're just sort of we're always, because of the racist system.
There's no point even trying.
There's no point in trying. It's not our fault, etc. And I think I'm seeing her essentially sort of do both, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is the fuller way of approaching this, which is to say, and I think a biblical way of thinking through things, that we got to confront the structural inequities and problems here. It is holding us back.
Yeah.
It's you're not letting us see our full potential, our full talents, is how you said it.
Yes. Yeah.
At the same token, she's saying, hey, this is the system we're in, but don't let it hold back how you think of yourself.
Yeah.
Press for as much as you can, even as we're trying to hope for things to be better and fight for things to be better. I'm speaking on things being better.
Yeah.
Don't let that sort of make you think that you still can't be used in speaking. One of her, the reason she started speaking was like, God put this call on me.
Yeah.
I need to speak. I need to speak on these things. And she's doing this without any precedent for this. It's not like she could look back and be like, oh, I see these other sort of women.
Someone's done this before.
Sure.
It was more of a like, I think I need to do this and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Even though technically there's no opportunity to do it. She sort of trusted that she can make that happen, and she did.
Now she did get obviously a lot of backlash, and
of course.
That's probably a light way of saying that. How did you see sort of like the way people responded to that? Because, I saw that both, obviously white people had an issue, but similar to like, the Black moderate, even today, you talked about the soul types, those who have an issue with someone like her speaking up and saying the things that do rock the boat, right? Because you find people, both slave and free, who sort of get into their groove and have settled in and found their way of sort of like coping and surviving in this space, and then here comes Mariah saying the things that they're saying that sort of like starts to like, just break ground in a bunch of different ways, and things start to get messy, and there's a bunch of dirt sort of like kind of shot up in the air, and now there's just a whole lot of ruckus, right? And so people are like, yo, I was kind of cool, I was kind of in my little space, I kind of found my groove now, and I'm cool now, and now here you come saying all this stuff that's just got everybody angry, got everybody tense. And in her Felt Well address, she sort of addresses that, but I'm interested in the way that kind of you saw how she sort of navigated those things.
But also, if you think about it, she's addressing people who have for centuries believed a certain way about a particular group of people. And so when you're hearing these messages that, hey, like you're great, like you're made in the image of God, like this, wait, what do you mean? Like, I would imagine people would be like, what is she talking about? What we are.
But she got the, angry Black woman comment.
Of course.
So again,
Yeah, she's accused of
for
being,
all those today, like the Jasmine Crockett's and
Of course.
who still get the same. It's just like it's an old argument.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Hey, here's another angry black woman standing up trying to tell us about ourselves, and it's like, one, y'all need to be told about yourselves. So that's one. But then two, from the black woman's perspective, it's like it's an old tired argument. It's the same comment. Yeah. It's kind of the first sort of default, like, oh, here's another angry. Yeah. But it does trigger to the the group of opposers that it's like, hey, look, and then and now you just sort of latch onto that, almost like calling anything woke. Yeah. It almost immediately categorizes you to be like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to listen to what this person has to say because they've just put her in this.
It's interesting. Even the word this idea of this is the angry black woman or angry black man. I mean, why is it anger for one person and boldness for another person, right? Yes. Oftentimes it is tied to gender or race or whatever, right? And if I would argue, I would love to do sort of a psychology test or sociology test where you take the same words and you attach it to, let's say a man who looks like he's a wealthy white man, et cetera, put together, educated, and you attach those same words to someone who's black, doesn't look quite as put together, and what people's reaction will be.
And maybe not. Maybe you do a wealthy white man and a wealthy black woman and see what people.
Well, they've done studies like this, I mean, and not quite in those terms where you could. They've done studies with doctors where you might have a black doctor or a white doctor, and how what they're saying is received by the person, even though they get the exact same diagnosis. Or like they've done studies where you have a resume, and it's exactly the same resume, but you have a stereotypical black name at the top, and then you have like a stereotypical white name.
Tyrone versus Brad,
and how people look at it and address it. And what's interesting is more optimistically, when you point this out to people, a lot of people are like, oh wow, I didn't realize I was doing that, and they begin to self-correct. But you have to point it out. That we do. And I think what's interesting is, and to be clear too on this, both black and white people can be prejudiced in this way, in the sense of that, like, so this is a crazy thing.
The critiques to Mariah were not just white men. Right. It was like this.
So a black employer looking at a stereotypical black name resume tends to be critical just as much as a white employer. It's sort of this cultural thing that we've bought into, black people and white people, that like, well, you're sort of naturally. Again, this is history. Well, lots of history of why we approach things this way. Anyway.
The water's contaminated.
Yeah, back to what we're sort of talking about
clean
here.
The water.
I mean, I think it is interesting that she's sort of critiqued in this way, when in fact she's basically making the same arguments as William Garrison was a well-known abolitionist. She's the one. William Lloyd Garrison. He's the one who encouraged her. First published her in The Liberator. White abolitionist, amazing in terms of the stuff he did. But in many ways, he's like, you're saying really good things. I want you to communicate that. She's saying some of the same things that everyone's saying. But because of the social conditions of that day, it was like, we're not used to hearing those words coming from that mouth and that person.
Now, and that's from a woman too.
Yeah.
And I think this is, a reminder of like, no, we should be paying attention to what she's saying.
Regardless.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things we can often learn. Sometimes there's a thing that people often say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's true. But what you say still matters, even if how you say it isn't right the way people might want to hear it. It still needs to be said. And sometimes, as much as we talk about meritocracy, people don't hear what someone is saying for the merit that it actually has. And they'll try to then almost like red herring and be like, yeah, but the way you said it was just, oh man, it just ain't right the way you said it. And again, you could still make the argument to say like, that's not actually true because so-and-so said this in the same way and you made him president. So it's like, we're talking about how somebody says a thing. That's not really an argument, right? So it's really, you don't want to hear what is being said and you don't like the critique because it's too uncomfortable.
I would also add to because if we think about this, we see what's happening in this time. One of her lines is sue for your rights and privileges, know the reasons that you cannot attain them. And she's frustrated, clearly she's lost her inheritance, right? She's seen the treatment of
through the legal process.
People.
It's just like
through the legal process, right? Swindled her out of all of this stuff. and she sees what's happening for centuries. And if we compare this, right, if we compare this to David in the Bible, when we read these laments, and he's like, how long must we do this? You know, we don't say, hey, David is a angry, you know, we don't ascribe that to him. We don't say that he's this angry, but
we preach the precatory songs.
Absolutely. We do. We talk about lament. And so for her to speak with frustration, clearly, pain, then we say, then we ascribe we attach the emotion to it. Oh, it's the angry Black woman. And I think we have to stop doing that. People can be, you know, I don't think she was degrading people, but I mean, if you're experiencing so much oppression and passion, it's gonna come out that way. It's gonna come out that way.
I think it's important to, this has been a recurring situation in all of the rage that's happened over recent history. So you think Trayvon, Mike Brown, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, like you just go down the list over and over and over again. And then there's this like subsequent rage that happens. And then what people do is frame the conversation about riots and unlawful this and unlawful that. And it's like, hold on. And again, specifically for Christians, right? For the world at large, I largely I don't care. For Christians who are saying, no, we are trying to follow this way of Jesus. My concern in every conversation I've had about this is we do a poor job of hearing someone's pain.
Yes.
We look at rage, right? Why do the people rage? We don't even ask, why are they raging?
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't care. And the first thing we do is listen to the pundits who are talking about the rioting and the vandalism and all of these things, which feel more like distractions because there's so many more people.
Yeah.
I mean, the proportion is not even comparable. Most of the people in pain who are speaking out are not on the streets doing what everybody's saying. But all of the stories are framed towards, oh, well, look at all of this damage that's happening and like why. And it becomes about that as opposed to the brutality or the life that was taken prematurely or unjustifiably. And that doesn't become the center of the conversation. And everything just gets, well, sure, that we shouldn't have done that. But what about all these people? It's like, no. We should not have done that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it seems like under the mask of preaching the gospel, we don't want to deal with the justice that needs to happen. Right? Like, and again, Mariah was someone who talked about justice. If you're talking about like wrath and Old Testament thematics, it's like, it feels like we don't want to hear New Testament ideas of do justice. I don't want to hear your prayers anymore. Stop doing that. Yeah. Stop fasting, matter of fact.
Yeah.
What's the kind
Isaiah
of fasting
58.
what's the kind of fasting that
Isaiah
I want?
58.
Do the right thing.
Yes.
Like do justice. Like take care of these people. Treat people like the image of God that I made them in. But we seem to like want to like turn our heads towards that and then just again take on the kind of teaching that tickles our ears instead.
Yeah. It's we're dismissing.
Yeah. When we read this quote, that sort of I appreciate sort of her framing of how we appreciate the fact that God is a God of justice. So she says, this is from 1832, Meditations from the pen of Mrs. Maria Stewart. My soul has often been grieved because I've been compelled to submit to the authority of the oppressor and to the scorn of the proud. Yet I will not despond, for the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. Though clouds and darkness are round about him, yet justice and judgment are the habitation of his throne. He will yet plead the cause of the oppressed and break every yoke and set the captive free. And so just her, I think what I read from her there, what I read from her there is the sense of how she has hope in the midst of what seems like this is never going to change.
Yeah.
That she says, I trust in God. But I think her sort of pointing out that God is a God of justice, but particularly justice for the oppressed, right?
Yes.
Bringing justice for the oppressed.
Yeah.
For those who have been held down, that we should expect God to act.
Yeah.
And so there is a sort of sense of her saying, get your act together, America.
Yep.
Because God can and will address this. And the expectation that he is going to address this, and that's why, and we're called to speak up to that.
Yeah. I think her her message, both of that dual like approach to the Americans who are oppressing, but then also the uplifting and the encouragement of Black people, and just kind of like, hey, like, get it together. Like, they're not going to get involved, get interested in your own well-being, is just beautiful, I think.
Yeah, just a really positive sort of way in which she's sort of Black empowerment, right? And
Black excellence. No.
Yes. No, you're right. We've talked a bit about this, but like, I think I'm glad you brought that out sort of, before we close here, which is just, there's a sense in which she's like, like we're held back, but don't hold yourself back in your own mind, right? Yeah. For who you are, what you can be.
That's facts.
Yeah.
And let's continue to press to give us more opportunity. Our potential is being limited, but don't let that limit you, right? It's almost like two different things. She's speaking to majority culture and saying like, you're limiting at us. You need to change things. But she speaks to the Black people audience and say, hey, you see those limits?
Keep going anyway.
Keep going. Keep going anyway. Go as far as you can and break down whatever walls you can, and you can and will achieve things.
Yeah. I think that's it's a great way to close, but I think that's a great message for people to hear. And I think that's one of the things about this sermon series for people is to take from the life of someone like Maria Stewart and take a message away like that. Like, even despite the kind of oppression or opposition or hardship, there's a way to acknowledge that and say, yes, this shouldn't be happening. It should not have happened because people have gone through terrible things. And it's important to acknowledge and actively fight against and seek justice for those things. And simultaneously holding intention, saying, but you can still keep going. And not only that you can still keep going, but the Holy Spirit is animating you and motivating you and energizing you to keep going. There is still more. I had a seminary professor who used to always say, like, as long as there's life, there is hope. And I think you look at Maria Stewart, and that's the kind of thing that she would promote, which I do love.
Yeah. And I would also just add, as we're reflecting on Mariah's life, like I said, those people who gave her the opportunity and the space to express and to use her voice, and they gave her the platform to do so. I think we need more advocates like that. Those who are willing to say, hey, like, we need to hear from this woman. We need to hear the words that she has to say, and
put her on platforms and give her those spaces and magnify, amplify those voices.
Yes. And so we can advocate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been, I'm going to try to impersonate.
Don't do it.
Like,
yourself,
share,
James.
comment.
Right?
Yes.
Hey, so this conversation can only go so long. We've got to wrap it up. But if we missed anything, I think you should drop it in the comments or share this story with someone who's not as familiar with the story. I personally did not know a lot of this. And so I had to look toward my AI deep research partners to help me. But again, a lot of these stories aren't as public as we think they are. And that's the purpose of this sermon series to begin with.
Yeah.
And so if there's more to this story that we didn't cover, then say something in the comments, let us know, and tell us who else we should be doing a bit more deep research on, who also fought. Like, again, a lot of people don't know that Maria was talking about the suffrage movement type stuff well before suffrage movement godmothers were talking about it. So again, she's a godmother to the godmothers. So so it's things like that. If there's more that we need to say, drop it in the comments. Otherwise, like, share, and let us know what you think. But otherwise, this is the Preaching Collective. We are out.